Hello, welcome to today's panel. My name is Justin Raybeck. I am the product manager for our UX and product management courses here at 4th Rev. I'm thrilled for you to join us today as we embark on this journey together to turbocharge your careers in product management. Throughout the webinar, we're going to be delving into tailored insights and strategies designed to cater to individuals at various stages of their product management careers. Whether you're just stepping into the exciting world of product management, or if you're a seasoned professional looking to take your career to the next level, you're in the right place. One of the most exciting aspects of today's session is its dedicated focus on understanding what hiring managers truly seek in product management candidates. So for those of you transitioning into the PM field, this segment is going to be invaluable, offering deep insights into those skills and those attributes that are in high demand in the industry today. Now, for our more experienced professionals, we haven't forgotten about you. We've curated a section that delves into advanced strategies for career advancement, helping you to navigate the complexities of this industry with clarity and confidence. Before I go into introducing our panel, I'll just go over some house rules. So this recording is going to be shared. As well, if you have any questions, please post them in the Q&A at the bottom of your screen, as well as use it for any other and for any other comments, please use the chat function. We'll be addressing your Q&As at the end of the call. So today, one of our main speakers, Annie Jackson, who's head of talent and recruitment at a recruitment agency called Clio, is unfortunately unwell and will not be able to make the session. However, we will have another product manager joining us shortly in the next few minutes, Tom White, who is Chief Product Officer at Nye Health, and he also serves as a product advisor and mentor. So he's very well placed to understand what it takes to apply for product manager roles, as well as experience hiring product managers. And then, of course, we have our own career coach, Tracy Schuff, who will have tons of wisdom and words of advice. So without further ado, Tracy, maybe I'll let you introduce yourself.
Thanks, Justin. Yeah, my name's Tracy Schuff. I'm a career coach here at 4th Rev. I've been a career and executive coach for about 13, 14 years now. Before I became a coach, my background is in recruitment for my sins, so I may be able to help a little bit with the recruitment questions. I became a coach because I really enjoy helping people identify careers that they will love, and I understand that, having changed from a career that I was good at but didn't enjoy into one that I absolutely love. So identifying careers that they love and then help give them the tools to be able to be successful in those careers. I'm looking forward to answering some questions today for all of you.
Okay, great. Thank you, Tracy. I think just because we have a good number of questions and Tom will be joining us, I might get started with the questions and we can focus on you and reserve some for Tom at the end. We have a large bank of questions that learners have asked over the past year. So let's go ahead and get started. So Tracy, what are some of the common challenges experienced by entry-level product managers looking to transition into a career in product management?
Okay, so I think a couple of suggestions that I'll say here to help people really position themselves correctly. First of all, it's about really understanding why you want to be a product manager. Whether you're entry level starting out, or maybe you've had some experience but want to move into product management, it's that clarity of why it appeals to you is really important when you go out to the market. If you can be enthusiastic about product management and what it means to you, then that enthusiasm is quite infectious when you go into the market, when you talk to recruiters, hiring managers. So it's that understanding, first of all, of why you want to do it. The second part of it for entry-level individuals is making the most of the skills and strengths that you already have. I find one of the difficulties people have is realizing just how much they have to offer, even at the start of their career. So think about what you're naturally good at, what your strengths are. Do you find that, throughout your education, you were the one that tended to lead things? Do you find you're really good at collaborating? You're a great communicator. Maybe you're playing a sports team and you're a really good team player. Communications is essential in product management, and that's probably something that all of you, wherever you are in your career, have already had experience of. So it's making the most of those transferable skills that you already have, identify them, and be able to articulate them well.
Great, thank you for sharing. That's really good. Now, what about people that are perhaps, hello, Tom. Thank you for joining.
Hey.
Hello. We've just done our first question about some of the common challenges that entry-level product managers face when looking into their career. Before I dive into digging into that question a bit deeper, maybe you could just give a quick introduction to the panel. I've done a short overview of you before you joined, but I really appreciate you filling in for Annie, and thank you for your time.
No problem, Justin. Happy to try and help. Yeah, so I'm Tom. I started my professional career. I really wanted to be a public health consultant, so I started in the NHS. About 10 years ago, I moved across to a private healthcare provider and got interested in all things digital, and that was my first product role, although it wasn't necessarily called that at the time. So I built the team and a bunch of products, deployed them around the UK, mainly a little bit of international work, built the team to about, I think it was about 10 onshore and 15 or so developers offshore, and began my product journey through startups, SMEs. I'm very much a startup guy now. So currently Chief Product Officer at Nye Health, who are doing things in digital patient support, patient registries primarily for life science, so rather than the NHS being the end buyer. I also do quite a lot of mentoring and coaching of product managers at different stages of their career. Some people are early and looking to kind of switch in to product management. Quite often I speak to people who are product managers who are trying to break that glass ceiling into senior PM role as well. And of course, I work with you guys, Fourth Rev. This is now coming towards the end of my second cohort on the PM Accelerator. And yeah, really, really enjoyed the teaching, if you like, aspect. Really enjoyed both cohorts. And yeah, thanks for having me along today. I hope I can shed some light on the topics.
No, thank you for your time. We were just talking about entry-level product managers transitioning into product management. So Tom, a question for you. How could individuals with maybe some non-traditional backgrounds, let's say a teacher, for example, how could they effectively position themselves for a career in product management? Where should they start applying for new roles? Can you recommend how to get started with this process?
Yeah, this is a question that comes up a lot, obviously in the career accelerator as well. Let's take the teacher example there, Justin. I think the first thing to do is look critically at job management listings, so product management job listings, and look at the skills that they're asking for, and look at the adjacency that you have, and make a more skill-based CV. The other thing I would do is leverage your uniqueness in that situation, and be quite focused on who your ideal customer profile, ideal job poster is. Realistically, if you're going for a product management role there, you're going to be competing with product managers. So you need to find those companies that are going to really value your previous experience. So straight away, we consider ed tech as a vertical there. The other thing to do, I would recommend for people who are switching, is look at getting a mentor, look at simply going to networking events. I know some of the current cohort have really indexed on this. Now, I know that costs money, particularly if you don't live in London, you're traveling in, so be careful. Pick your spots, reach out to people. Most people are happy to give you some time, senior folk like me. If they don't respond, that's okay. Reach out to the next person, get some advice on your CV, but also immerse yourself in the world, learn the language. I think just applying cold for things without doing that groundwork can be very disheartening. I think that's what defeats people, and they feel it's impossible. I think you have to set yourself the goal and you have to have multiple threads running. You can still absolutely apply for stuff because you never know. But I think that networking, that development of the CV, build a relationship with a mentor, because then the mentor will go, oh, well, this person's great. I'm not hiring, but actually I'm in a WhatsApp group, for example, Justin. I've got 100 other product leaders in that WhatsApp group. I didn't make the group, let's be clear. I got added to it. But you imagine in that situation, someone hiring and then they'd say, oh, I've been working with this person. Why don't you speak to them? It's about who you know. That would be my brief summary of where I think people should start anyway.
Okay, no, it's great advice. Now we've touched upon people starting in the career management. What about, Tracy, those that are looking to advance their careers that might already have been doing product management for, say, a year or two, or perhaps more?
So I think
Sorry, apologies, guys. My internet's a little bit jumpy. I wasn't sure that's obviously not for me. Tracy, carry on. Sorry.
Oh, sorry.
no problem. So I think it's really important to start with your understanding of where you want to go. It's not enough just to say, well, I'd like a more senior position. It's where do you want your career? Which direction do you want to head into? And once you've identified what the next role looks like for you, it's then not waiting until you apply and do that job to demonstrate the behaviours that are required to get into a more senior position. You want to change your internal branding so that people stop thinking of you as you are, but start thinking of you as where you want to be. So things like, if you're moving into a bigger role, a more strategic position, it's demonstrating that big picture thinking in your conversations that you're having as part of your job today. It's about, if you're moving into a leadership or more of a leadership role, you may not currently be managing, but there may be opportunities to demonstrate those leadership skills. So, for example, somebody new joins into your team, you might take them under your wing, coach and mentor them, and you'll start to be seen as someone that is interested in developing others, great leadership skills. So it's understanding the qualities of where that's needed in where you want to be, and start developing those qualities or start demonstrating those qualities. It's also about identifying any development areas. So it may be that, there are certain things that you need help with. And again, engage a mentor, talk to a coach, do some online training to be able to acquire those leadership skills, those strategic skills. So it's that identify where you want to get to, what's required in terms of behaviours, and starting to develop those behaviours early on.
Okay, great. And Tom, this question is geared towards you. We often get candidates that might have a strong technical background, let's say could be in development or IT, or it could be perhaps even in design, but they might be limited in their soft skills. How would you advise these individuals that are maybe looking to enhance their chances for product management roles?
I think, particularly if you're looking at soft skill development, there is no one size fits all, because obviously that is a broad church of things. I would go back to the something Tracy was saying there of being very intentional and getting feedback, whether that comes from a good manager, good set of colleagues, someone external, mentor, coach, whoever. The first step is to, I suppose, in true product management style, develop a hypothesis and confirm or disprove it there. I think my soft skills need work to get me to where I want to be. Okay, fine. And then it's really about developing that very structured plan. And as always with anything, it's that little and often am I working on that and being quite intentional with that. If you're in a role that allows you to do so, potentially then taking on other projects. Looking at, okay, well, I'm more on the development side, but is there an opportunity to get involved with, say, user research or something that's going to develop those, broad church but softer skills? And I think if you're not currently in a role and you feel like you want to develop skills, or even if you are in a role, I guess, then you'd be looking at specific courses and getting recommendations once you've confirmed those gaps. I think as with everything, the more sort of external data you can have on where your gaps may be, then the better, in my view. So I would tread lightly before jumping into solutions to make sure you match it back to Okay, no, I've spoken to a couple of people. Actually, this is a development area for me, but that's okay in my core role. But I know if I want to move into somewhere that involves a lot more of that, then I'm going to need to have quite a structured plan, and then, making that plan based on where your gaps actually are.
Okay, great. No, that's great for sharing. And both your responses tie in quite well to the next question I have geared towards Tracy, which is about any case studies or success stories you could share of people that have transitioned into product management from diverse programs or people that have advanced their careers. I think before you answer that, I would probably consider myself as an example of someone who's transitioned to the product manager role from perhaps a more technical background or a different background than itself. Although my first role was product manager after business school over a decade ago, I transitioned very quickly into UX design and research, which I've done for the last decade. And I came to 4th Rev as a subject matter expert for UX design to build the course. And I was interested in product management for the last year, thinking about it and thinking about, you talk about, Tracy, positioning yourself to become what you want when you advance your career. And, I maybe worked more closely with the current product manager and got involved in more product management decisions than perhaps another subject matter expert might, to demonstrate that I was capable and could take on this role. And now, of course, I'm the product manager for the product management course and the UX Career Accelerator. So that's just my own personal journey to the product manager role, and kind of creating my path and demonstrating capabilities when I didn't have that role already. But I would love to hear some, I wouldn't call myself a success story, but I'd love to hear some more success stories
Success.
or case studies that you might have from other individuals.
Yeah, absolutely, and it's one of the things that I really love about working with the learners on the Career Accelerator is, particularly the career changes, is seeing them at the beginning where it's this, I know I've got this passion for, in this case, product management, but they don't believe they are yet, and they're not sure that they're going to, make that switch, or they're less confident in making the switch. And then a few months later, they're in a product management role, absolutely loving it. And we have all sorts of backgrounds examples to use. So we have plenty of people from the IT world, people that have been very technical, who transition into product roles because they see others doing it, and it's there's one individual that their passion was this understanding the customer, and they felt their technical role didn't give them enough exposure to that, and so they combined their analytical skills with what they've learnt in terms of that, putting customer first, in terms of communication skills, the planning skills they already had, and they successfully switched from a very technical role into a product manager role. There's been individuals that project management is a common one that we come across, switching from project management to product management. Always two difficult words. I always have to pronounce them very carefully to make sure I get them the right way around. But yeah, we get lots of project managers because there's lots of again, transferable skills across there. Teachers we've mentioned. Teachers seems to be a common theme with our Career Accelerator, transitioning into roles, in this case, product management roles. People on a career break, plenty of ladies that I've worked with who have taken quite a substantial career break, perhaps lacking in confidence, but then realise that they've still got those skills. They can talk about things that they've done in the past, maybe things that they've juggled PTA committees and things, and then they've transitioned into a role as a product manager or a product owner. I think the common theme of the career changes is a little bit like I was saying to you before. It's the believing themselves to be a product manager rather than I am an aspiring product manager, which is where a lot of people start. But if you launch to market with, I'm aspiring, then recruiters probably will put you in the, actually, you're not a product manager, let's go to the next CV. So it's what we do as part of the coaching is give people that confidence that what they're learning does mean that they've got current knowledge about product management. And I think a lot of people that are currently product managers have tended to fall into it. So if you've got that grounding of a really deep knowledge of what's involved with being a product manager, then it really helps then to sell yourself on the market. So it's that ownership. I am a product manager is the most important thing to have when you're changing. Without the hesitancy, well, I was this. It's not, no, I'm a product manager and I'm bringing these transferable skills as well as this knowledge that I've learned as a product manager that allows people to transition. I think the other, when I'm thinking of individuals that have successfully made that transition, it's also about networking. Tom mentioned it before, but it's easier to find a role when you're transitioning through your networks rather than necessarily through the application route, because recruiters do want to put you in a box. There is ways of making sure your CV allows them to put you in a box, but your networks are really, really important to you and to the people that have been successful. There was one individual that I worked with that was transitioning from project to product, and he says what most people say to me, well, I don't know many people in product, and I'm not very good at networking. And so we talked about the people he did know. We talked about the fact that it's not who you know, it's who they know that is important. And you don't know who knows product managers. So we spent quite a lot of time making sure he was clear with his personal brand as a product manager, but also getting that confidence and belief that networking worked. And I remember he came back to me and said, I really didn't believe you when you talked about networking, but I did it anyway. And I've got 3 offers, all from my networks. And, that was just such a fantastic story because, I know networking works, but he took the actions necessary and found the role great, and actually is thriving, is loving the role.
Oh, thank you for sharing that. I mean, I'm a strong believer in, I don't even call it networking, just being in touch with people throughout all of life, whether it's inside work, outside work, because people are fascinating and you never know what roads you could end up down through those connections. So I was actually going to ask a further question on networking. So I'll pose it back to you again, Tracy. Do you have specific strategies that you like to recommend to help build that strong professional network?
Yeah, so first of all, as a common theme here is understanding your own personal brand. If you're going to network in the market, understand who you want to project. I think you've got a number of routes to market. I think you talked about physical networks, and there's lots and lots of product management network opportunities to meet people face to face. Women in product, product managers network. I think there is loads. Google it, you'll find lots. I think the first step in terms of face-to-face networking, and by the way, I do agree, Justin, I don't like the term networking. It has the wrong connotations. Networking sounds like I want you to work a room, and I don't. The important thing with face-to-face network, well, with all networking, is to establish the relationship first. And people forget this. It's not about going in and selling, look at me, I've got all these wonderful qualities, I want a job as a product manager. It's about getting to know them. It's about them trusting you. It's about, having intelligent conversations, demonstrating your knowledge, but not in an overly sales way. So with any sort of networking, it's engagement first. Build the relationship first, then go in and ask the favour that might help you then find that next role. So you've got those physical networks. You've also got the people you know, and even if you're transitioning and your product is new to you, as I said before, it's not the people that you know necessarily that know of the jobs, it's who they know. And it's amazing where jobs come from. It never ceases to amaze me. I worked with an individual. She had a coffee with somebody that was nothing to do with her department, one day because they'd sort of got on and the sort of coffee conversations, thought nothing of it, but she had dropped in her elevator pitch, her sort of short branding statement. And that lady she had coffee with went home and said, oh, I met, you know, had coffee with this lady, really great. And her husband said, oh, that's interesting. You know, what does she do? She remembered the elevator pitch, and her husband went, my sister needs somebody like that. So that lady got her new job through that first lady's husband's sister. Now, you can't plot that out. And she didn't go in with the hard sell. She just dropped in her elevator pitch in the coffee conversation. So the people that you know, they need to know that you are now a product manager, because they may know of you know, opportunities for you, but unless you let them know, they're not going to be able to let you know about the possible opportunities. So don't forget your current networks. I think the next step is the LinkedIn stuff. You know, if you talk to any career coaches at Fourth Rev, we will talk a lot about LinkedIn. LinkedIn is a great way of finding people. Tom mentioned before about people, you know, people who've been successful like him are happy to help. So reach out to people that you admire, people that, you know, you want to be them, and ask their advice. It may not be formal mentoring, it could be, but it could be, you know, just an advice about the networks that they use. So feel, you know, be brave and reach out, because people are really, really helpful, particularly people that love their jobs and are successful. They're really, really helpful. So find people on LinkedIn that you admire, reach out and ask them for a piece of advice. And that's a trick as well. Don't reach out to people asking for a job. Ask for a small piece of advice that sort of plays to their expertise, because once someone's helped you, unconsciously they have a vested interest in seeing you succeed. So they don't go about thinking, oh, I must find, you know, you a product management role. But when they overhear something, or they're in Tom's WhatsApp group and they think, oh, you know, somebody's looking for a product manager, I met this really great person. So it's asking for a piece of advice rather than honing in, I just want a job, definitely. And remember, this networking, I would say, it's not just for Christmas, it's for life. Networking, or whatever, wish I could find a better term, but networking should be part of your normal working week rather than something you do when you're looking for a job. You know, the people that do networking naturally are the people that tend to be more successful, because people get to hear about them. They like them because they've started, they build the relationships first. As Justin said, he does it naturally, builds that relationship. So don't think about networking as a one-off. It's something to include in your normal working week. And then finally, I think on LinkedIn, there's groups, loads of product management groups. My advice with LinkedIn groups, you never know the discussion until you join. So join a lot and leave a lot, so you're just left with the good quality ones. And also follow people, follow the thought leaders in product management on LinkedIn, comment on their posts. Don't just say great article or like, but say something that demonstrates your knowledge in the field and your confidence to be able to share that knowledge on an open platform like LinkedIn. So lots and lots to do. The more you do, the more likely it is you're going to achieve your career goals, both in terms of the next step, but also the future ones.
Great, thanks for sharing. I'm going to steal that phrase. It's not for Christmas, it's for life. That's a good one. I want to talk a little bit about the actual job application process, and I'm going to point this one towards you, Tom. I mean, what are some of the common pitfalls and mistakes that you think candidates should avoid during the job application and interview process? And what would you feel is the best way to prep a product manager for an interview?
Yeah, so you start at the top of the funnel. There's two ways that jobs get advertised. There's either directly or there's through recruiters. Recruiters are, by their nature, they're under huge pressure. So don't take it personally if they don't get back to you. Keep going. When you find a great recruiter, then they can be a great source of career advice as well. Big tip for interacting with recruiters, and to be honest, if you're reaching out to people like me, make it easy for them. said Tracy there, I was nodding vigorously. Small piece of advice first. I like easy questions. Don't reach out and ask me to solve your entire CV and job hunt in one go. Probably won't get a response, or if it does, I'll write something generic. You ask me a specific tip, and it's the same with recruiters. Any busy person, don't forget, recruiters are trying to hit a quota and put the best person in front of the client. May or may not be you at that point, but I think the big thing is don't get angry with recruiters. They are fairly hard-headed, and all that will do is put you on their blacklist. So that'd be the first tip, is build the network with recruiters as well. Reach out in their slow periods. Coming up to summer, maybe it'll be sunny soon, and you don't have that problem, Justin, where you live. But UK is
yeah, it's 28.
Winter's carried on.
Today.
If you're going direct, so the other route, you're going direct, reach out to a couple of people at the company, try and find a mutual, and this is again comes back to your point, Tracy, of the more you network, the more unintended consequence you can have. You'll find someone in common if you've done your networking. If you don't, reach out cold and say, hey, look, I'm applying for this role. Really feel I'm passionate about it for these reasons. Got any advice? And it's perfectly okay to reach out to someone within the team rather than the hiring manager. If you can get the hiring manager, great. So I think that's the first thing. That is the hardest step, because I'll share an example. I advertised for a product manager last year. In my team, we got, I remember, 700 applications via LinkedIn, of which I think we got down to 80 just by going, don't have any right to work in the UK. We can't do sponsorship. Ni's a tiny company, and to be frank, there's no need for us to do that at that point. So we got down to 80 people who were just in the UK. And then I looked through and I went, well, I took out another 50 people who hadn't even tailored their CV at all. And that's not even, I didn't even look whether they had product management experience or anything. It was just they've just shoved in a sales CV. And I'm like, well, not the job. Have you read the job? No. Those who had tailored it, okay. And then, to be honest, there was for that particular role, I was looking for someone who's quite experienced because of the dynamics of the team. So I was looking for more of a senior PM, and that person is actually becoming head of product now. So, I wouldn't want switchers to be disheartened by what happened next, which was then I had the luxury of choosing sort of 12 people or so to speak to who are experienced PMs. But the point there is, don't be intimidated by the numbers of direct applicants, because most of it was nonsense. Really was. And to be honest with you, a couple of people did reach out to me and say, hey, I'm really, really interested in this. And I did speak to a few people who didn't have a ton of product experience. They didn't get through on that occasion, but we stayed in touch. So you've got to look at the job opportunity as a networking piece. Okay. Don't treat it as a binary or something to get cross about. It's just everyone's trying to do their best mostly. And if they aren't, then move on. There's plenty of other roles out there. So I think that's the first step, Justin. When you get into an interview process, all the usual stuff applies, but I'd strongly suggest having someone who can help you in the background. So have already built that mentor or that coach, or, friendly peers, people who can sense check what you're doing if you get given a task. But the other thing I'll say as well is that, broadly speaking, most product management interviews, you can probably predict what they're going to ask. How do you work with customers? How do you deal with conflict? How do you, make a bank of 15 standard questions and practice them in front of the mirror. I've never done that, obviously. Wouldn't be me at all. Even at the senior roles, they're going to ask you 8 of those standard questions, and there'll be a couple that are specific to the company. Break down the interview process into manageable. Don't be a robot, but give yourself that confidence that I know I've got 2 great examples for when I've engaged with customers, 2 great examples of resolving conflict, 2 great examples of delivering a project, whatever it may be. So break it down. And when you get through as well, don't be afraid to use the skills, if you're on the Career Accelerator, to really pick apart the business a bit. Ask the difficult questions for the founders. As you get through to the meet the founders, the 3rd stage or whatever, they're looking for people, or they should be looking for people who can think. So don't be afraid to ask the questions that go beyond the how much annual leave am I going to get? These are important questions. Of course they are. We all need our holidays. But I would also say at every stage of the funnel, you really got to be really preparing, but not just reading, actually thinking and going, how does this business work? How does it generate revenue? How does it, do I have any concerns about the prospects of the business? Like, can I ask about where this role will go in terms of how you see the business expanding? Is it, does it want to go international? Is it international already? How does that work? So I would add, there's a lot here, Justin. Obviously, I could go on a lot longer, as you could probably tell, but I think that the top of the funnel is really important to, sort of stay quite even keel, and then as you get through it, like being quite structured in how you break down what's ahead of you, and that'll take some of the nerves out of it and the worry as well.
Okay, great. Thank you for sharing. Very, very helpful. I want to dive into some of the Q&A from the participants, just so we can answer some of their questions. I think I'm going to try to combine two questions into one that are directed towards you, Tom, and I believe both of them might be your current students. So Joanna O and Bryony Crush. Joanna says, currently enrolled in a PM Career Accelerator course. She's been actively searching for jobs and noticed all junior PM roles require a minimum of 2 years experience. I don't have this much. How can I overcome it? And I want to tie it in a little bit with Bryony's question, who's applying for PM roles, but comes from an NHS and civil service background, and he's trying to make a point that they've done this course, they have a background in NHS. Is there anything else that they can do to help them demonstrate their capabilities here, and be more successful at getting these entry-level roles?
Yeah, so Joe's question first, yeah, it's a bit naughty, really. I think this product management market has a long way to go in terms of making itself more accessible. You miss out on lots of great people by that nonsense thing of junior PM roles needing 2 years. So my advice there would be keep going, but also consider what things you could do without incurring great costs, that you can maybe start a project yourself, a small no-code app, that kind of thing. There's lots of different tools out there, or even just a kind of strategic teardown of a company, whether it be a high profile one, but as a piece of work, and start going, well, look, or analyzing their marketing strategy or something like that. Not necessarily even a company you want to go into, but it then feeds into that, look, this is what I can do, and you're building up some extra things to put on your application, I would say.
That's great advice, Tom, there. We actually have in the UX course, one of our assignments, they get to choose a product to kind of break down and redesign, and one of our learners had got reached out directly by the company that she wrote the review of to hire her for a contract job. So
awesome.
It sounds like not a big thing or a big deal to do it, but it can really impress people if you've noticed some critical things that could use uplift or change. So I think it's definitely worthwhile. And it's very little cost to yourself, as Tom's mentioned.
Oh, that's really great to hear, Justin. Really glad that someone's got some work out of it. I think also helps keep your skills current and hardens what you're learning on the course into a real world context as well. I think the other thing you can do is look at bigger companies that may have roles adjacent to product, with a very intentional strategy of going to go in, do a great job, and get in with the product team and move across. And we do see that on the Career Accelerator. People who come on it from adjacent teams in bigger places are now starting to make headway with to your point, Tracy, much more networking now that they do. And then suddenly, lo and behold, there's projects spilling out of product, and they're doing them. And then a product management role comes up, and guess who's in the box seat? So that can also be a way of doing it. With regards to Bryony's question, I know, sorry, we tried to combine them there. I do think that public sector experience is very much sought after by public sector PM roles. So I wouldn't have got the job on Test and Trace if I didn't have a background in NHS. So my advice to you, Bryony, is really make the most of that and stay patient. They don't come around a lot, but they tend to hire in great big droves. If you can, I appreciate it's not always easy. That stay patient. Well, yeah, I need, pay rent, pay mortgage, but if you can, I think there'll be another big wave of those sort of product management roles in kind of September, when more of the funding gets released around NHS. And I think it's really making the case of why you're so passionate about product management as a vehicle to change what you've seen in the NHS as well. But yeah, I think you're in a good spot to get those roles. I certainly know some people from the previous cohort who got couple of central government product management roles as well. So yeah, keep going would be my advice.
Great, thanks, Tom. I've got another question, primarily directed to you, Tom, but feel free to chime in, Tracy. Portfolios have been a discussion that you and I have had, Tom, ourselves, about how necessary it is for people applying for PM roles. Do you have particular thoughts on it? For example, do you require them in your portfolio process? Katja is loving to hear more about the approach to portfolios and how important they are.
Yeah, I think in the recruiting I've personally done, and just consider this, this is one very narrow data point. I'm not the oracle on product management recruitment, guys. They're not something I hugely look at in terms of, I'm not going to look at the portfolio, but I do think what a portfolio can really do is help you structure those answers. We mentioned there, Justin, in the interview, you've got really clear, STAR examples, situation, task, action, result type things. I also think that a portfolio can be a great way to start generating some content for yourself. Back to Tracy's point about personal brand, is you've got 20 posts worth then if you've got a sort of medium-sized portfolio of things you've done. So I think in terms of ordering your brain, having stuff to talk about, etc., great. I think that I probably wouldn't necessarily sort of ask for a portfolio. We tend to do task-based competency stuff, Justin. When I've done, as a second phase, it's like you present against something. But I think if you've got a body of work already that you can call on, that gives you some structure, it makes the task less daunting, and you've got those examples in your back pocket. So I think they're definitely good to do. I think unlike your original vertical, Justin, where it's UX and design, I understand they're much more used as send over your portfolio as the first step. It's less common in PM roles.
If I can jump in, I think they can be useful for changers to prove that they have the knowledge. You say Tom used it as posts, absolutely, but we've also seen some people creatively use them in an interview situation. For example, when they're answering a question, they can demonstrate in terms of the portfolio. But you do need to push push the fact that there's a portfolio, the content, to get people to use it, because it's, as Tom's saying, it's not somewhere people naturally are going in the product space. But if you're changing, it does help you to stand out and prove the knowledge, the expertise, and if you're doing the accelerator, the practical nature of the accelerator. It's not just an online course. So I think you have to be more creative when pushing it out, rather than expect people just to be looking at it. But I think it can help you, particularly changers, really position yourself very well ahead of the field, because not as many product managers are doing it at the moment.
Okay, great. Thank you for that. We have another question from Katja on how much weight does this course weigh in front of employers? I'll put in my thoughts on this matter, and you two can feel free to chime in. I think the course does two really key things in how it demonstrates your abilities to new employers. I think one, it shows your commitment and desire to become a product manager, or to be a product manager, that you're willing to spend the time and the money to improve yourself in this field. I think that's really important. The other thing it does, particularly for new starters, is, of course, you're introduced to all the specifics in the whole new world of product management. So starting to speak about things that you might talk about in a portfolio or interview, you're very comfortable because you've been doing it for 6 months and you're knowledgeable on the subjects and you've done project-based learning. So it will come across in your interviews that you know how to do user story mapping, or you know the basics of taking a product to market, and you've done a project based with that. And probably the other thing is we do have an employer project at the end of our program where you work with a real life employer. So over the past year, we've had DocuSign and Sky, for example, and you're doing a real project that is part of their real business roadmap, and you're contributing real work. So I think that looks almost as good as an internship when you're demonstrating your capabilities. I can go to, I think we have time for a couple more questions here. We have an anonymous attendee who has developed, like, once you develop strengths in both technical aspects and understanding of the customer, where's the best place to start showing your value? Might pose this one to Tom, I think. Or is that, sorry, Tracy, were you about to answer it? No.
So this seems like it's a question for once you're in role, as the start of it seems to say. So I'll assume that. I think the key bit here to make sure that you are showing that you've got value is almost this. You see some startup founders doing it on LinkedIn. It's almost like the building in public, but you're not doing it on LinkedIn. You're doing it in the company. So you're finding a way to engage people regularly as a PM to give them valuable information, stuff that they wouldn't get in their day job. Oh, well, you've got these customer insights, and that's really interesting because it creates this opportunity here. Make it simple, make it accessible. Doesn't have to be a meeting. I've often done regularly, fortnightly, I'll do a blog post. This is what we found out from our latest customer meetings. I think the tech skills come from delivery and that, okay, this is what we've shipped this month. So I think, and obviously tricky, it's quite a brief question, but a good one. I think really the mistake some PMs do make, and this is often how I advise people how to get up to senior PM, is that quantification of impact back to simple business language. Make it accessible for the big execs. They might only have 10 minutes. Make it consumable in whatever time you can get with them. And make it actionable for them. If not, make it really interesting. Don't just assume that someone's going to notice that you've done all this work. I think I could talk about this topic and regularly do with individual PMs who are struggling with this. I think there's a whole piece here about marketing yourself in terms of internal marketing first. Make people believe that you are good at what you're doing, and they will believe that.
Yeah. And I think, yeah, it's important to demonstrate that business acumen as a product manager. If you know the technical and the customer side, it's demonstrating internally to who you report up to, that you understand the business acumen and you are speaking their language.
And
Sorry,
I think
Tracy,
that internal branding piece is knowing where you want to get to and being aware of how the business sees you, using the internal opportunities to network with other people, not in the course of your job, so that people get to know you, but always be aware of how you want to be seen in the next role, rather than just once you've settled into this role. And I think people forget about the internal networking, the internal branding, think of it all about LinkedIn, but it's every bit as important. In fact, can be more important because it's easier to get promoted internally sometimes, but it's that awareness of how you want to be seen, and make sure you're using those opportunities to demonstrate that, the knowledge and behaviors.
Okay. We're going to close up quite soon. I'm going to try to do a couple of rapid fire questions to finish them out. Any advice from this panel on working for global foundations as a product manager? Opportunities out there? It's quite a specific question.
Not really my area, sorry.
Yeah, that's fine.
I think it's a couple of things, a bit more generic than specific to global foundations, but something Tom, when he was talking about interviews, that I was thinking about is the understanding why you want to work for that type or a specific organization is really, really important to get across an interview. And I think if you're keen to get involved with that space, it's finding where they are communicating, you know, where they are. So, you know, maybe LinkedIn groups, maybe maybe you're approaching people directly, but it's understanding more about that market and more about and demonstrating in things you're saying on LinkedIn, in the way your CV is formatted, that it's a passion of yours to get involved with this particular type of foundation or foundations in this area. So it's that understanding of why that sector is important to you, and make sure you can articulate that.
Okay, thanks for sharing that. And there's also a question about opportunities to volunteer as a product manager. Perhaps you're wanting to get experience out there, and you do have the time and the financial resources to volunteer. How they go about doing that?
I think it would sound like a broken record, but start with the networking. There's no formal schemes. So there's no like apply to this. You know, the closest you get is probably this course, as you said, Justin, the Employer Project being, you know, pretty real world there. I think bonding with you know, product leaders, PMs in the space, etc. You know, letting them and be very intentional. Let people know what you're about. I'm looking to pick up some experience, maybe paid, maybe unpaid, specifically in this. And the usual cautionary advice to make sure you don't end up in a bad situation, you know, very clear on what you're going to be asked to do, be very clear on how long it's going to be for, you know, and what you want out of it as a professional reference and something that can go on your CV, and make sure that that's all agreed up front would be my advice. There's not a ton of structure to it out there though, so it's going to be a case by case approach, unfortunately.
Okay, great, thank you. And final question I'll direct towards you, Tracy. It's from a current learner on the course. Do we have a sort of cheat sheet of sorts for interview task and questions directed specifically for product managers?
Yeah. Well, sorry, did you say Joanna's on the course? I missed that bit, Justin. She is,
yes.
Right. So the first place, or the place to go, is Owning Your Career. The interview section, we have lots of standard questions, not specific to product management, because Owning Your Careers are all our accelerators, but there are lots of the standard questions. Tell me about yourself. What are your biggest weaknesses? Never understand that, why people ask that question, but they do. What's the biggest mistake you ever made, and what have you learned from it? Where do you see yourself in 5 years' time? All those sort of standard ones. We have a document on there that you can look at. I think for specific product management questions, I would go back to the job descriptions that you are seeing, and what is it that they are looking for. So, you know, if they're asking for good communication skills, then you think about your stories, and rather than try and sometimes work the questions out, questions can be asked in lots of different ways, but I always say to people, you have a number of stories that you can tell. And those stories will cover lots of different questions. So learn your stories first. The star stories that Tom mentioned, or car stories we talk about in Owning Your Career. So if you really know your stories and have practiced them in front of the mirror, as Tom suggested, then that really gives you a good solid basis, coupled with the standard questions, the more general questions that we've got examples of, then that will put you in a really good place, you know, whatever the interview questions.
Great, thank you for sharing that. So we've come to the end of the call. I want to thank both you, Tracy, and especially Tom, for joining very, very, very last minute after Annie unfortunately had to call in sick. So thank you both for sharing your thoughts, and I think it's invaluable. And for those that want to rewatch the recording, you will get a video in your inbox. It will also be available ultimately for people that haven't seen it on our YouTube channel where we post it. So it will be able to be seen again. If you have any feedback, please put it in the webinar chat. We love to take feedback, so please give that. That's really it for now. So I'm going to close the call. Thank you again for your time. Thank you everyone for joining, and I hope you found it useful. Take care.